everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today in this video I'm gonna talk about who is Montesquieu and his early life. So what does Montesquieu say and his theory and his main theory of separation of power, how we can compare with a specific state. Many of things I will discuss in this video. So let's see who is Montesquieu. And in here firstly I need you to give simple idea about Montesquieu. Montesquieu is one of the famous and great French political philosopher of the Enlightenment. He was living 18th century and he was born on 1689 in La France and died 1755 in Paris. And his full name is Charles Louis II and he was a French lawyer. Now I hope to move exploring his early life. Charles Louis II, now known simply as Montesquieu, as his full name suggests, was born into a noble family near Bordeaux, France on 1689. He inherited the barony of Labrid in 1696. First educated by the Oratorians at the Collège de Joly, Montesquieu then studied law at the University of Bordeaux. He began his career in law, practicing in Bordeaux's parliament. Montesquieu became a judge in 1740. In 1750, he married Jean de Loyty. His livelihood was state management at that time. Additionally, he was attempting to increase his knowledge of literature and write down a few thoughts on political systems, past and present. Now let's see what does Montesquieu say. According to him, there are three kinds of powers: legislative powers, executive powers, and judicial powers. So he says that these powers should not be given in the hand of one man or hand in the one body. No matter how honest that man and body is, the power is given by the one hand. There will be arbitrarians. These principles basically works on three rules. First one, the same person should not form part of more than one of the three organs of the government. It says that a person who is a member of legislature should not be member of judiciary also. For instance, if legislature brings an act that is violative of fundamental rights, we can claim for the dramatists and we can go to the judiciary, but if the both powers are given to the same person, we cannot have fair start of justice. Second principle is one organs of the government should not interfere with any other organ of the government. Here, judiciary cannot interfere with the work of legislature or executive, and legislature cannot interfere with the work of executive or judiciary because they have to work within the space of powers given to them by constitution. Now, third principle is one organ of the government should not exercise the function assigned to any other organ. This is function of legislature to bring acts and bring laws, and it cannot be done by the judiciary, and the function of judiciary is to try cases, and that should be done by the legislature. These are the three rules on which the doctrine of separation of powers works. Let's see the defects in this doctrine. Though theoretically this doctrine sounds very good, but when we saw to be applied in real life situation, it faced lot of difficulties. This doctrine is based on the assumption that three functions of the government are independent from each other, but in reality that cannot be completely separated. Once Justice Frankfurter said, enforcement of a rigid concept, separation of powers would make a function of modern government impossible. Why? For instance, if the legislature can only legislate, then it cannot punish anyone for committing a breach of its privilege. Every parliament has certain privileges, and so does Indian parliament. For example, Indian parliament have the privilege of punishing anyone who misreports the speech given by 8 members and the houses, and anyone misreports those pieces legislature can punish it, but this function of judiciary and it's performed by the legislature. So if this doctrine is applied very rigidly, this function will not fit. And the second example, the courts can't frame rules of procedure to be adopted by them and for the disposal of cases. And in India, every High Court and Supreme Court have their own rule, have their own regulations for the disposal of cases, which is the function of legislature framing the laws. And if it is the case, it cannot be done by the judiciary. Now let's see separation of power in USA. This doctrine is the foundation of a USA Constitution. According to Article 1 of a USA Constitution, all the legislative powers are given to the Congress. And Article 2 gives all the executive powers to the President. Also Article 3 that gives all the judicial powers in the Supreme Court and in the High Court or other subordinate courts in the country. There is a presidential form of the government, and it is based on the theory that there should be separation of powers in executive and legislative. This doctrine is not applicable in USA in the religious institution, because a bill passed by the parliament or bill passed by the Congress may be bill passed by the president, and judiciary can also interfere in the power of the Congress or in the power of the president. So we can say USA, the truism of separation of power does not exist. Now let's see separation of power in UK. Now as we all know, there are 3 kinds of government powers: executive powers, legislative powers and judicial powers. Executive in UK consists of the ground and the government, including the PM and cabinet. Legislative power are given to the parliament and judicial powers are given to the judiciary. Now, parliament consists of 3 things in UK: monarch, House of Lords and House of Commons. These 3 things on the parliament. Now, the government is mainly elected from the parliament, members of the parliament part of the government. Government has executive powers and the parliament has legislative powers, so there is personal overlapping. Second, the monarch has only nominal powers and has to listen to the advice of Prime Minister. Monarch is part of the legislature and the Prime Minister is part of the executive, so there is no separation of power in UK. However, Montesquieu concluded that the best form of government was one in which the legislative, executive and judicial powers were separate and kept each other in check to prevent any branch from becoming too powerful. He believed that uniting these powers, as in the monarchy of 14 Louis, would lead to despotism.